everybody. I was asked by some of your classmates. I've been doing a lot of essay consultations, and some people mentioned to me that they were struggling with the ADR, the RevPAR, and the idea of occupancy rate. Okay, so I was asked if I could go ahead and explain these in a little bit more detail. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do today. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and we will start with our ADR. Okay, so our ADR is average daily rate. Average daily rate. Okay, and essentially it is how much every room cost per night. Now you're gonna have some rooms that cost, $50, some that'll cost $100, some that'll cost $150, $200, $250, etc. Okay, because some will be rooms and some will be suites and some will be, all sorts of different things. Some will be on sale or be a discount or whatever that may be. Okay, so what we're basically doing is, in order to get our ADR, we are looking at the total room revenue. Okay, total. Okay, divided by number of rooms sold. Okay, sold. D. Okay, so let's say that we made $20,000. Okay, that is how much we made in room revenue. And let's say that we sold 100 guest rooms. Okay, so basically that averages out to $200 per room. So that is our ADR. Now, let's say that we made $20,000. And let's say that we sold 200 rooms. Okay? What that ends up giving us is that means that we made an average of $100 per room. Okay? So, what do we ultimately want to have? We would like to be selling fewer rooms and getting more money per room, because you have 200 people or 200 rooms being sold, you're doing twice as much work than 100 rooms sold. So ideally we would rather have a lower occupancy rate but more money coming in. So we'll get to occupancy rate in just a minute. Now, a couple of things that I want to mention with regard to ADR. Okay, again, we're talking about room revenue. We are not talking about revenue made from the spa, from the restaurant, from parking, from whatever, from anything else. It's strictly room revenue. Okay, so it's really important that we keep in mind. So let's say that we want to get our room revenue, specifically our ADR, up. What are we going to do? There's a few different things that we can do that we can do in order to increase our average daily rate. So we can offer packages. So for instance, like like a breakfast package or a weekend package or a golf package, whatever that may be. Same thing with, we can offer discounted or extended stays. Okay, extended stay. So if you think about it, a lot of times people go for a weekend, so they stay for 2 nights. Well, what we can also do is we can say, oh, well, we can increase the price a little bit and then say, oh, we'll pay for 2 nights and get the 3rd night free. Well, most of the time, those 2 nights actually do end up being more expensive, but that is one way that we can certainly get our ADR up. Another one is upselling, okay? So somebody comes in to, they have a room and you say, would you like a suite, or would you like an ocean view, or whatever it may be. So there's lots of opportunities to add on an extra $20 or $50 or $100 per night by upselling them when they actually come into, the hotel. And then there's also other ways like, kids, sometimes there's a payment for that. Sometimes there's a payment for pets. Sometimes we have like referral programs, so that encourages people to stay more brand loyal and to return, those sorts of things. So those are some of the ways that we get our ADR up. Okay, but like I was saying, ideally we want to be having fewer rooms and making more money per room, because ultimately that means we're doing a little bit less work and we're making more money for what we are doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about our occupancy rate. Okay, occupancy rate tends to be the thing that everybody it's pretty easy for them to do. And the reason is because you're just looking at number of rooms sold, divided by number of rooms available, okay? So this is pretty straightforward. So if we have 100 rooms in our property and we sell 70 of those rooms, it is a 70% occupancy rate. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that just because we have 100 rooms in our property doesn't mean that we always have 100 rooms available to sell. So let's say we may actually end up doing a renovation. So in some cases we might have fewer. So we might have 20 rooms under renovations. That means we really have 80 rooms to sell. So 70 over 80 is a lot more than 70. What is that, about 90, not quite 90, about 88%? Okay. So this is what we're really looking at with the occupancy rate. Now there are a couple of things. The reason that we care about occupancy rate, there's a few different reasons here. One is because occupancy rate makes it a lot easier for us to compare ourselves to our competitors, okay? So for instance, people in the hotel industry, you'll never hear a hotel manager say to another hotel manager, oh, how many rooms did you sell last night? They don't care. What they care about is the occupancy rate. So that's because let's say that we have 3 rooms and, or I'm sorry, 3 hotels. Hotel, this pencil is terrible. Okay. Geez, I'm gonna have to get a new pencil. Okay, can I do it with my hand? Nope, that's not gonna want to work either. Oh, it would be helpful if I actually used the pen and not the eraser. Okay, so we've got Hotel A, B, and C, okay? So for instance, I tell you that I sold 70 rooms in each of these hotels. Or no, actually let's change that, okay? So sold 70 rooms in Hotel A, I sold 50 rooms in Hotel B, and I sold 20 rooms in Hotel C. If we just look at the number of rooms, that tells us nothing, okay? Because let's say the room sold, okay? Sold, okay? Because let's say that the number of rooms available, okay? Let's say here we've got 140 available, okay? Let's say here we've got 75 available. And let's say that here we've got 25 available. Okay, so we're now looking at our occupancy rate here is 50%. Our occupancy rate here is, what is that, 66%. And then our occupancy rate here is 80%. Okay, so that's why I say that comparing the number of rooms that are sold is useless. We care about this occupancy rate, okay? We care about this percentage. That's the important thing. Okay, so a couple of things with regard to how we increase our occupancy rate. One is very often dropping our dropping our prices. So prices go down, often the demand goes up. Not always, but sometimes. So there certainly is that aspect. It is really important to know your kind of your competition and who it is that you're against. Going up against, who you're competing against. The other thing is what we call booking channels. So we have talked about distribution channels. So some booking channels like OTAs, like booking.com, that sort of thing, that's what we're talking about. Some of them sell a lot, some of them don't sell nearly as much for us. So that's really what we are concerning ourselves with here. Okay, so now that we've got our ADR and our occupancy rate, let's talk about RevPAR. Okay, so we've got our, let's do black RevPAR. RevPAR. Okay, revenue per available room. So there's 2 different ways to do this. One way is we can take the ADR and we can multiply it times occupancy rate, okay? One way to do it. Another way is that we look at the room revenue and we divide it by number of available rooms, okay? So in most cases, this is going to be your total number of rooms in the hotel, unless you have some that are offline, some that are being renovated, so forth and so on, okay? So this is this is why your ADR and your occupancy is so important, because we really want our revenue per available room to be as high as possible, okay? Okay, now there's a couple of things to think about with regard to RevPAR, room revenue, that sort of thing, okay? One thing to really keep in mind is the fact that revenue per available room, okay, is room revenue only, okay? So no spa, no restaurants, no parking, etc. Okay, so keep in mind that we again are only talking about room revenue, and those other outlets that make money are very important. Okay, so kind of the final thing to think about with regard to how do we increase our room revenue. One is what we call minimum length of stay, okay? So this often happens on holidays, special events, that sort of thing, where school holidays, okay, where they don't want to miss any opportunity for earning money, so they will say, oh, it's a 3-day minimum or it's a 5-day minimum, whatever it may be. Other things to kind of keep in mind is length of stay. Now, keep in mind length of stay, okay? So the longer people stay, the more money you make from them. Now, I did notice in that article that I gave you to look at on Blackboard, it did talk about length of stay and several other metrics. Do not worry about those. It's totally fine, okay? You do not need to worry about those unless you actually get into the hospitality, the hotel management bit. So, okay, so I do hope that helped you. I hope that made sense and cleared everything up for you. You do have your quiz 2, and I did extend the deadline. So now you don't have to actually turn that in until I think it's the 1st of October. I hope that's correct. So that gives you a few extra days over break to do that if you would like. Otherwise, I look forward to reading your essays on the 25th of September.